dictatorship.
Democracy is not defined by the West.
You destroyed Rwanda, you unalived Rwandans, and now it's time up. Imagine being in that room when President Kagame spoke these words. The tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Belgian diplomats shifting uncomfortably in their seats, perhaps thinking, is this reality happening? Now, this is not a political movie. It is real. Just days ago, Rwanda did something very few small countries could dare. They kicked out every Belgian diplomat and gave them just 48 hours to leave the country, to pack their bags and go. But then, Belgium quickly returns the favor. As one Rwandan journalist puts it, when Belgium asked for forgiveness for the genocide it caused in Rwanda, they gave flowers, but what the Rwandans needed was justice. And that sentiment echoes throughout Rwanda. Sometimes I always say it's good to be in the shoe of somebody in order to know, in order to understand how that person feels. Now imagine someone comes to your house, tells your children which one is the favorite. Then when a fight breaks up because of that, the person takes his bag and leaves. Then comes back years later and write a small note and send to you that he is sorry. Would you accept that? Now this is essentially what is going on between Rwanda and Belgium, but on a national scale with deadly consequences. I'm a Songwriter on the strategic lens, and today we are going beyond the headlines to understand how this diplomatic earthquake matters to both of us. A well-documented account from Rwanda tells of two brothers from the same family. One was classified as Hutu and the other as Tutsi. According to historians, this wasn't uncommon. A survivor once testified, "We shared the same meal, the same culture, we intermarried. Then one day a stranger came and said, 'My nose is different from my neighbor's nose, and that makes me some other kind of breed, some kind of intelligent, more superior breed than my neighbor.'" Now, this wasn't just one family story. Before the Belgians arrived, the Hutus and the Tutsis, they lived together. They did everything together. They shared land. They shared everything. They shared businesses together. But when the Belgians came, the Belgians looked for every tool possible to divide and rule. But then, before I even continue, at that moment, there was no document showing anywhere that Rwanda had minerals. So what were the Belgians looking for in Rwanda? I'm going to tell you what the Belgians were looking for in Rwanda later in this video, so follow up. I'm going to bring it to you. The Belgians, they did everything to create a measure that would divide people that had lived together for centuries. Now, what people don't understand is that Africa is one of those continents that have been very peaceful until colonial periods. Most other continents have had a series of wars and all that. We lived here in Africa in peace before the Europeans came and drew lines on a map and start pointing people from one side that you belong here, you belong here. They even come into a community and still divide that community, go into those divisions and divide further more so that they can easily control. But let's continue with this video. I don't want this video to be long. So how did the Belgians do this? They came to Rwanda, told certain groups, the Tutsis, that you are superior to the other people. They gave them jobs, educated them, and restrained these opportunities from the Hutus. It's like you have a city and you designate certain areas for development and certain areas for struggling. That's exactly what happened. The Tutsis were the minority while the Hutus were the majority. It's like designating one portion of your city for success and the other for struggle. And when tensions rise and when war rises, you act as if you are surprised, then you leave. That was terrible. And it didn't just happen in Rwanda. It happened everywhere in Africa. But in Rwanda, it had devastating consequences. But here is where the story takes a dramatic turn. And this part hardly makes it into the history books. By late 1950s, freedom movements were sweeping across Africa. in the nearby Belgian colony that would become Congo. Patrice Lumumba was inspiring millions with calls for independence. In West Africa, Kwame Nkrumah had his particular special speech where he said the independence of Ghana is useless unless Africa as a whole gained its independence. Seeing all this, the Belgians panicked. They became scared. Their colonial plan, strategy was backfiring. The same Tutsis they had educated might step up a revolution against them. So what did the Belgians do at this moment? Now picture this. Imagine you are in a football match where Team A is playing Team B, and the coach of Team A, within the 90 minutes playtime, decides to change sides and start supporting Team B against his own team. That's what happened. That's what the Belgians did. Their intentions was very, very mean. Historical archives reveal documents where the Belgians literally crossed out support the Tutsi administration. They started on a particular point in time and instantly decided to support the Hutus. And Africans have always welcomed Europeans. Always welcomed them with all our hearts. We didn't know they were there to manipulate us. Yeah, we didn't know we were manipulating. They were there to manipulate. It took a very long time for us to know that there was some level of manipulation because they came with the Bible. You know what's in the Bible? Love your neighbor, love, 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 love. How can you imagine that somebody who is coming with love, 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 love is having an agenda? That is, they say the best lie is a lie that resembles the truth. You're telling somebody to love the neighbor, at the same time you are actually distinguishing traits of a particular person from the other so that they should have some tension, and then you get into the middle, the fight, you get into the middle, you get whatever you want to do or whatever experiment you're trying to do. It's terrible. This political betrayal unleashed the Hutu revolution in 1959, where more than 30,000 Tutsis were unalived and 336,000 fled to neighboring countries. Belgian officials watched as homes burnt and families torn apart. The same families they had manufactured their superiority decades before. As one writer from the region powerfully stated, Belgium poured gasoline everywhere, handed out matches, and then acted shocked when the country caught fire. Now let's fast forward to April 1994. I want you to imagine something. You are at home with your family when you suddenly hear that the president's plane has been shot down. Within hours, roads are blocked by some individuals with machetes. Those same individuals are checking ID cards that were given out by Belgian officials. And what's inside the ID cards? The structure, your description, your physical description, the shape of your nose. And the worst of it was the label Hutu-Tutsi. You need to remember that this was not existing before the Belgians came. We had Rwandans. We didn't have Tutsis and Hutus. Later, phone lines are cut and messages are going around that people should cut down the tall trees. You know, the tall trees, they were talking about the Tutsis, right? That was the code name that was given for unaliving Tutsis at that time. Imagine you hide in the ceiling of your home and you hear how your neighbors are being taken out and unalived with all their children. Inside all this chaos, inside all this unaliving and all this fighting all over, you stay in your home and you hear one day that there's a miraculous army that has come to save you, and everybody is happy that a miraculous army is coming to save you. The Belgians are coming to help with their gear. You see them coming in town. There is big military cars well armed with heavy gear. You know they're going to stop the war. But wait, what they did took everybody by surprise. They came and just took the Belgian citizens and left the country. They left the country so that whatever they had initiated between the Hutus and Tutsis should materialize. These Belgian soldiers, they drove past streets where Rwandan citizens were being unalived. They were only interested in taking their citizens out of Rwanda. They didn't want to negotiate between or bring the Tutsis and the Hutus to reasoning. together. They didn't want to help to stop the war, which was very easy at that time because they had been allies to both sides. This is exactly what happened. Survivor testimonies document how Rwandans from their hiding places cried out for help to this Belgian army to save them, but no, they had no time for them. They left. In about 100 days, about 800,000 Hutus and Tutsis were unalived, and the whole world stood there. And back then, why didn't the UN react? Why didn't you react? He bends his head down, looked down, and said, we counted the cost of action and found out that the cost of action was higher than the cost of inaction. You get that? Now, that is mathematically correct, but it is morally bankrupt. 6 years after the genocide, Belgium's prime minister came to Rwanda with flowers and an apology. He laid flowers on the genocide memorial and asked for forgiveness. I spoke with a Rwandan friend, particularly about this apology that the Belgian officials came and made after the genocide. He said, Rwandans listened politely, but the question they asked themselves is, will this apology come with changed behavior? Is this apology sincere? It's like someone burnt your house, left, then came back years later, write a sorry note without offering to pay for repairs. Would you consider the matter settled? For years after the apology, Rwanda watched how Belgium had been gaining influence in Central Africa, especially in its neighboring country, where a very huge portion of the people who committed the genocide had fled into. Today, Belgium supports Congo in a complex conflict involving M23 rebels. Though Rwanda denies this, Belgium has taken Congo's side, supporting sanctions against Rwanda. I've always said this on this channel. It's always important to put yourself in somebody's shoe in order to feel the person's pain. A Congolese refugee once said on TV that it's not fair for the Belgians to sit in a room in Europe, draw lines on the African map, and people are unalived in Congo and Rwanda. There is a saying in geopolitics that when elephants fight, the grass beneath them gets trampled. But then what happens when the grass decides that it has had enough? There is a 90% chance that the device you're watching this video from has minerals that come from Congo. And guess who has interest in these minerals? Belgium and other Western powers. Rwanda is positioning itself as a Singapore in Africa, even though it doesn't have a coastline. As one tech told the Financial Times, we are building Rwanda 2.0. We don't need anyone's permission or apologies to succeed. By cutting ties with Belgium, Kagame is making a bold statement. Rwanda can stand on its own. It's like telling an abusive ex-partner, not only do I not need you, but I am thriving without you. But then there is a very important part of this story we must confront. As one prominent African diplomat put it during the recent Continental Affairs conference, we must also ask ourselves what we did or failed to do during the Rwandan genocide. Belgium failed, there's no doubt. So did African institutions during the genocide. What did we do? What did African countries do? They sat on the sidelines and watched. The Organization of African Unity didn't intervene, now called AU. Neighboring countries, including Kenya, even sheltered genocide perpetrators. Felicien Kabuga, who financed the genocide, lived comfortably in Nairobi for years, reportedly protected by officials. Investigative reports shows that Kabuga lived in plain sight. Everyone knew what he was doing. Everyone knew his businesses. He had hotels. He had buildings all over Nairobi. But no one acted. There were heroes though. Captain Banye Dingi from Senegal, a UN peacekeeper, saved hundreds of lives by smuggling people past checkpoints in his vehicle. At Rwanda's genocide memorial, his photo stands as testimony that one man with courage made a difference. Imagine if there had been 100 like him. Rwanda's break with Belgium isn't an isolated case. Across Africa, many countries are rethinking their relationships with their former colonial powers. Emmanuel Macron can give you a lesson of that with the Ibrahim Traorés, the Mali and the Nigers. As foreign policy experts have noticed in recent analysis, what Rwanda is doing openly, many African nations are doing quietly, seeking new partnerships that don't come with colonial baggage. So what happened then in this new high-stakes confrontation? For Rwanda, cutting ties with Belgium could mean losing aid money and facing EU sanctions. But as one senior Rwandan official recently stated in a press conference, "We have rebuilt a nation from ashes. We can handle some economic pressure." He actually means here that the foundation that they have put is very solid. Rwanda have set records that other countries still dream of having. President Paul Kagame was once known as the best African president. Now, for Belgium, this is a public relations disaster. Imagine having to explain to the world why a country you once ruled wants nothing to do with you anymore. For other African nations, Rwanda's move sets a powerful example. As one prominent Nigerian analyst once wrote, "Kagame just showed that the emperor has no clothes." If Rwanda can stand up to its former colonial power, what more about Nigeria and Kenya? Now, there is a powerful quote from one of Rwanda's genocide survivors that captures Rwanda's journey. "For 100 days in 1994, we called for help and no one came. Now we don't call for help anymore. We help ourselves." When Paul Kagame told Rwandans to tighten your belts and fight for your rights, he was tapping into this spirit of self-reliance that has defined Rwanda's remarkable rebirth. Whether you see Kagame as a visionary or an authoritarian, one thing is clear: the days when former colonial powers could dictate terms to African nations are fading. Understanding world events isn't just about what happens, but why it happens and who benefits. What do you think? Was Rwanda right to cut ties with Belgium? Would their country have the courage to break ties with its powerful colonial ally over historical wrongs? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this analysis helpful, help me share this video and like this video so that many other people should watch and understand what's actually going on in Africa. Until next time, remember that today's headlines are tomorrow's history books. But the main question is, who gets to write them? See you in my next video.